Now, welcome to another installment of Open Studio right here on Cape Town Television. Open Studio in conversation with Tashrick Perry. He hails all the way from Haynes Park at the Cape Flats. Well, we're going to be having conversation with him about his dreams, his ambitions, and what he does for his community. My name is Lama Limun. I'll be with you right through to 5:30. Make sure that you do not touch the dial because there is a thing or two that you can walk away with in today's edition of Open Studio. Welcome to the show, Tashrick. We understand that you're a busy man and you made time to come to Cape Town Television.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, it's good to be here.
Sure, I understand. We're going to have a pretty good time chatting to you and finding much more about yourself. I understand growing up, you had a lot of dreams in the bag, and everybody that has dreams wants to see them come through. But there's an unfortunate incident that had happened when you were young. Your parents got divorced, and that meant that you have to assist your mother in bringing up your siblings. You dropped out at school at grade 8, I understand. How did that affect your psyche?
Oh well, I dropped out of school in grade 8. Um, it was very challenging, because at the time I passed to grade 8. To high school it was a new setup. When you grade 8, you need to blend in. You need to get used to the that you're almost an adult. You know, so mom and dad got divorced. My dad he got caught up in with some wrong friends. I wouldn't say the wrong friends, but the decisions that my dad made at that time had resulted that my mom and dad had to get a divorce. And yeah, so I was 16 at that time, and mom and dad got divorced. Mom got to work. I had to obviously step in as the eldest.
Yeah. It's so easy when you're faced with challenges. One would choose to do the negatives. They fall off and they meet peers that are going to pressure him or her to do the negatives in the neighborhood, in the community. But all you did since grade 8 to date was something positive. What influenced your decision into doing something positive instead of following the peers that are living in the Cape Flats that are up to no good?
Well, Lama, to answer your question, I think that if it hadn't been for, I used to grow up very confused. You know, I didn't know where I wanted to be in life because when you reach the age of 16, um, mom and dad has got this set of rules out that you need to follow. Go to school, come back, do your homework and do your chores, and you get washed, you in bed, and you get ready for tomorrow for the next day of school. So my life wasn't about that. You know, my life had to be where I had to go to the streets to find that parent support because mom was working. Mom was working a seven shift, 7 days a week. You know, and as a result, I was left alone with my brothers. I had two brothers at that time, Lama. So I had to obviously I had to step in. I had to look after my brothers, and I got lost in community activities. I used to take part in any activity that the community had to offer. So at the time, I started a youth club called EYD, Empowering Your Dreams, and I just got lost in that project whereby me and my auntie, we started this project where we went to the primary school in our area, and we started a reading project whereby we would help kids that wouldn't behave in class. We wouldn't have them after school, and then we would obviously try and assess and see how far we can go with regards to trying to change this child's behavior because at that time they are students, and coming from the community where I come from, we were aware of the challenges that we were facing, So I guess I resonate with them because I could feel that gap of not having both your parents in your life has got a very huge impact with you being on school. And I knew because I dropped out of school at a very early age. So I knew that these kids needed that extra attention. And Mama Auntie, we were that person.
The challenges that you faced are hard for anybody, I can say, but you chose to wake up each day to to pursue what you are doing today. What wakes you up? What tells Tashrik that today I'm still gonna do good even though I faced so many challenges yesterday and the day before that?
Wow. You know, the only thing that I can be grateful for is um waking up and telling yourself that what is gonna make today better than yesterday. You know, it's just the fact that God has given me another opportunity to wake up. You know, and when I wake up in the morning, I tell God, "Oh, thank you for waking me up." And I just look at the ceiling in my place, and I tell myself that I am privileged because how many people made plans for today and they didn't wake up. You know, so for me that is the first blessing. You know, and telling myself that today I'm gonna make a difference. I'm gonna make a better choice. And every night when I get into bed, I tell myself, Tashrik, you have achieved this today. What are you gonna achieve tomorrow? You know. So every day I challenge myself. You know, I I judge myself. I question myself, and I tell myself, but you didn't do good there. Why not? You know, I've got a huge mirror in my house, and I call that mirror my parents that is not in my house because I question myself constantly in that mirror. You know, so I would say that yeah, I would just retract back to my steps and tell myself that okay, maybe today I'm gonna do something better than yesterday.
Is there somebody that you look up to?
Well, not someone specifically. I guess I'm my own mentor. You know, I
Yeah.
motivate myself. You know, I got that ability to motivate myself and just to push myself. You know, and I compliment myself every time. I pat myself on the
On
shoulders
the
and
back and say,
and
job well
say,
done.
job well done,
And you can do this again
and
tomorrow.
I can do it even much more better tomorrow.
Listen to that. Ladies and gentlemen, we understand that the Western Cape has many stories that are similar to Tashrik's, and you would want for yours to be told right here on Open Studio. We can have these kind of conversations with you. You can dial us on 021-448-0448. Or can you email Junaid at capetowntv.org. Can you Sisanda at capetowntv.org. We're also on the World Wide Web, which is capetowntv.org. We're going to take a quick ad break, and when we return, Tashrik is doing something so unconventional. We know that there are male dominated industries and it's very hard for females to penetrate. He's a midwife. Can you believe that? We're going to find out how he made that decision. Was it conscious or was it circumstances that led him to do so? Midwife, which is a male. Why is it not called a mid husband? We don't know. In conversation with Tashrik Perry right here on Open Studio. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Cape Town TV. Now, if you just joined us, you missed our first segment, but never fear because tomorrow morning between 9:30 and 10 a.m., we're going to catch the repeat. So make sure that you wake up with us right here on Cape Town Television. We are on free to air right here in the Western Cape. Otherwise, if you're living someplace else in South Africa, we are also available on channel 263 on DSTV. Welcome to Open Studio. We are in conversation with Tashrik Perry, who hails from a Haynes Park, rather, Haynes Park. Tashrik, you grew up and you had dreams. Was being a midwife ever in those bucket lists that you wanted to become as a young man?
I never imagined myself being a midwife.
Yeah.
You know, I never even had a passion for any medical industry. You know, and as a result, you do remember I mentioned that growing up was very hectic.
Yeah.
You know, and as a result, when I turned 16, I started to become naughty. You know, because dad wasn't there anymore, mom was working, I was on my own.
What kind of naughty?
Well, by coming in late, sometimes at night. I wasn't someone that would turn to drugs or alcohol or none of those substances, you know. None of those things, none of those activities attracted me at that time. You know, I was a person, I would go to mosque,
Yeah.
which I would do my salah. I would just be lost in mosque, in reading the Quran and just trying to be that Muslim boy that my mom wants me to be. But unfortunately, the pressure of my father not being a part of me, you know, that that I just couldn't I couldn't move around that. You know, my dad not being there, I was used to having my dad around. You know, and mom and dad got divorced when I was 12, so 13, 14, 15, 16 was 4 years apart, right? So for that 4 years, I had to I had to get lost in the community, you know. And at times I would tell my mom, I'm going out with friends, and she would tell me, I'm working tomorrow. Where are you going? And I would be like, Mom, I'm tired.
Because you're still a kid and you still want to live like a
Still
child.
want to love. And at that time, I didn't understand that the pressure my mom was under, you know, because I was a child. You know, I was young. I was 16. You know, I never knew anything about being responsible. And I told my mom that I need a break. I need to go out with my friends, and I need to be where I was supposed to be, because you expose me to things that I'm not prepared for, you know. And I had to clean. I had to do whatever I need to do, and I just wanted to. I just wanted to be a kid, you know. And at that time, I couldn't be a kid. I had to be an adult.
Now we fast forward to you deciding to be a midwife.
Yeah.
How did we get to that point?
I used to read a first aid book. So I had
Okay.
this first aid book when I was living at my grandma at that time. So this first aid book was a coloring book, you know. And when I paged through this book, it was like the wounds, people's wounds and things were standing out to me, you know, the blood and whatever. And I was looking and I was like, I wonder why is this? Why am I so attracted towards this book, you know? And um, my grandma came in and she asked me, why are you, every time when I see you, you are busy with this book. And I told her, Ma, I think I want to become a paramedic one day,
Sure.
you know. And from there, things just started to develop, because I have mentioned that I wanted to be a paramedic, and I think my body started to develop that way, you know. And I started to clean my cousin's wounds, you know. I would, if they would fall and whatever, I'll tell them, no, come here, I'm going to clean it. I would put a plaster on, you know. I would always be that cousin that they can come to, even if they're crying, even if they got boils, you know, all these medical sores that these kids would normally get, chicken pox, whatever, etc. I would always be the one that can handle it.
Obviously, for you to become a professional paramedic, you need the training. Obviously, you could not go to be trained because there was lack of funds. The father was not there. Your mother was the only and the sole breadwinner at home, and you opted to become a midwife. How did that happen? Who trained you? Like, what? This is fascinating.
Okay. So I met my uncle on Facebook, a random friend request. I accepted the request, and I told this person, listen, I am a very outspoken person, so I would post anything on my Facebook. So if you would not feel comfortable, then you would rather just unfriend me now. And he told me that my mother's maiden surname is Perry. Who's your father? What is your father's name? And I told him my father's name is Kasim Perry. And he's like, that is my cousin. And I met my uncle on Facebook. And my uncle obviously had money at that time, and he asked me, what would I like to become one day? And I told him that I would like to become a first aider, because I thought first aider at that time, I thought that becoming a first aider would then
Open
clear me
doors.
to become a paramedic, you know. But little did I know that it was going to actually open a lot of doors, but I wasn't aware at that time. And I did my first aid up until level 3, and in the manual was about the emergency home childbirth, and my mom was pregnant at that time, right? And I told my instructor that I would like to deliver my mom's baby, and she was like, "That is a very huge responsibility, and I don't think that you will be able to handle such a thing." And I told her, "Really, but it's standing out for me." Little did I know that on in that specific year, the in 2018, I was going to deliver my first baby, and it was my baby brother. My mom was in labor,
Wow.
and I had to assist. And
How was that experience?
you know what? The whole experience about that part was that my mom, I always used to remind and telling her that I know how to deliver baby. So why don't you plan to give birth at home? She's like, my son, that is a very huge thing, and I don't think that I will be able to live. If anything needs to go wrong, they would you assisting me with regards to your baby brother being born. I said, Mom, don't worry, I am prepared for it. I will have my shoelace and my black bag and my towels. I have it ready for any emergency.
Yeah.
Little did I know that that specific morning when my mom was in labor, I was going to be the one delivering a baby.
So are you busy boasting to your brother now, like, I'm responsible?
Of course. I tell him that I'm your second mom. This is not your mom, she's on your carrier. I am your mom, you know. And she would allow me just to be who I am. And me and my mom, I think after that experience, the relationship between me and my mom became stronger, because I was out of the house for more than 5, 6 years. So my mom was living alone with my brothers, painting, and I was on the streets roaming. And when I got back, I started to realize that I wanted to become a paramedic. And my uncle was going to be able to assist. I did my first aid level 3, and yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to find out after this quick ad break that we're going to take, what are the stereotypes that are connected to males being midwives, and what's the next step for Tashrik to become the paramedic that he wants to become? So don't go anywhere because there's more of Open Studio when we return. You're watching Cape Town Television. Now, if you just joined us, you're catching the last part of Open Studio. Otherwise, the repeat is tomorrow. We're still in conversation with Tashrik Perry, who is an aspiring paramedic, and we're gonna see what the future holds and what he's hoping for it to hold for him so that he's quite a happy guy. I'm sure that there's a lot of community members that are very proud of him. They're indebted to him for making their lives a little bit easier. But I've got this perception in my head, Tashrik, that perhaps there is misconceptions, a stigma attached to being a male midwife because it's a woman-dominated industry. Is there such?
Well, as I've mentioned in the previous conversations, whereby I said that when I grew up, I was very confused. So I didn't know if I was interested in males or females at that time. And I grew up more to, I would identify myself as a queer male that is just married, because I then obviously came across a situation where I then wanted a girlfriend. Remember when I was on the streets, I was never interested in having girlfriends, etc., etc. You know, so me growing up that way, I was in touch with my feminine side, and I think that makes it more comfortable for the females to open up to me because they know that this guy he's married to a wife, but we can speak to him about anything
Because there's this safety net
because there's a
attached to
safety net
you.
attached. There we go.
Mm.
And women, they enjoy. I wouldn't say they enjoy, but women, they like to feel that they are safe. And that they if if they should tell me anything about with regards to female has got a lot of things attached to them. And me, they can ask me anything about medically or not medically. I'll be able to answer you. And for me, that is a bonus. Because to be a doula in a community where you have males, gangsterism, etc. I think if I didn't grow up this way, this option would have never been thought of in my community because of all the the stereotypes and the stigma with regards to. But isn't like they would refer to males being midwife as, aren't you gay, or aren't you homophobic? Because men ask me that, are you homophobic or are you straight? What are you? I tell them, no, I'm straight. It doesn't mean that I speak this way or I attend to homebirds that I am necessarily queer. And I respect queer people because I grew up that way. I chose that path, and if I didn't choose that path in life, I don't know where I would have.
Let's talk about the relationship between you and your father. How is it standing? Because had he not been absent for a while, I'm understanding. Actually, I'm assuming that your dreams could have been fast tracked and you could have been where you wanted to be in record time.
That is true. Um, but I wouldn't necessarily say that things could have things could have progressed or where I could have been a professional paramedic today.
Yeah, but we're assuming
I
now.
think I
What did
think
his absence do to your relationship?
I think that if my father had to be there, right, I wouldn't even be able to be. I wouldn't be able to sitting here in the studio speaking to you, because my dad was a very, patriarchal, masculine. Listen, this is just the way, and there isn't any other way, And I think that would have scared me. That would have put me into a nutshell. I would have closed down instead of coming out and just being who I wanted to be.
Perhaps the situation now exposed you to other situations that forced you to be a responsible um, brother, father figure to your siblings.
That is correct. I would put it that way, If my dad would have been here, I think I would have been maybe a lawyer or maybe a doctor, but not necessarily a midwife. You know, because the stereotype around that, I don't think my dad would have been comfortable with that.
Sure. Now you are a midwife. However, you've got aspirations of being a paramedic. There are no funds there. It is frustrating and stuff like that. Where are we at today?
Okay, that is a very good question, eh? So, where we are at now is that I have received the call since my story has been posted in Cape August, right? And I remember that I received the call. It was about 5:45 that specific day, so it was almost night. And I received the call 021 number, and I answered, and I'm like, hello. And this person tells me that his name is Rashad, and he would like to speak to me. And I'm like, okay, speak. You can speak. I'm listening, you know. And he said that he can offer me a bursary. The only words I could hear was the bursary part. I could
Yes,
only hear.
yes.
And I'm looking at my wife, and she's looking at me, and she's like, what is wrong? And I can't speak, and I'm looking at her, and she's like, what is wrong? You need to speak. The people is on the phone. And I'm like, they offered me a bursary. She's like, who offered you a bursary? I'm like, sorry, sir. He's like, no problem. I'm like, thank you so much. Who am I speaking
But
to?
who are you?
He's like, I'm Mr. Rashad. I'm Sambaba, and I'm the chief executive of Skills Academy. And I've read your story, and I want to give you a bursary because your story is standing out for me. Pardon. Because I've seen all your challenges, and I've read your story, and I can identify as to how I grew up when I was your age. You know, because he had a single mom, and the story that was printed in the Cape August, it resembled how he grew up. You know, and as a matter of fact, he wanted to give back to the community. You know, and he chose me, and I was so grateful. I was crying. I was literally crying. I couldn't believe. I just dropped down on the floor and I was crying. And my wife, she held me and my baby. He came to me and he's like, Dada. And I just have him and I was just crying. And I told my wife, from now on, we are going to start a new life because
Not
opportunity
that
was presented.
not all that is horrible ends in a horrible manner, because your story shows us that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Did you deliver your own baby?
No, the one that is coming in April this year, I will be delivering.
Okay, cool stuff. Such an inspiring story. We love hearing positive things happening in the community. And thank you for being of assistance to the people of Haynes Park. And being a paramedic means that you're going to reach the whole of the Western Cape and perhaps nationwide.
Oh, amen to that.
All the best for you. Do you have a story that you want to share with Open Studio? Sisanda at capetowntv.org or Junaid at capetowntv.org. 021-448-0448 is that number to dial to see our website www.capetowntv.org. Catch Open Studio tomorrow morning between 9:30 and 10 to see the repeat. Otherwise, we're back again at 5 p.m. right here on channel 263 on your DSTV. We are free to air on the Great Metropole. Keep it locked right here on Cape Town TV. There's more for you to watch. Don't touch that dial. For myself, Natasha Rick, is God bless, good night, and good vibes.
Thank you.